What's going on, YouTube? Ferocity? I hope you guys are doing well. I think it's time for some of the biggest video games in the industry to fail. Now, I'm not talking specifically like Fortnite or Apex Legends, because I feel as if those games still deliver a pretty good experience. I'm talking about games like EA's Madden, or NBA 2K, or Call of Duty, or Battlefield. Games that were once on top that have now fallen from grace. Yes, they still have a loyal fan base. Yes, they still sell millions of copies every single year, but they deserve to fail. Their business models deserve to fail. I look at games that are coming out over the next few months, and I'm excited for games like Spider-Man 2. Obviously, people were pumped for Starfield. They were pumped for Baldur's Gate. These are games that were created by passionate developers that had one goal in mind: satisfaction from their player base. Whereas these other developers, people over at EA Sports, people over at 2K, Call of Duty, and Activision, their developers and their sole goal is to ensure that they milk every single cent out of their player base. It's not about making and creating an enjoyable experience. It's about creating an environment where it's all about spending money. That's their sole goal, to be more profitable than they were last quarter, instead of creating games that push the boundaries of what they thought were possible. Look at what Starfield's able to accomplish. Could you imagine if that much dedication and passion went into a Call of Duty project? What that could accomplish? The amount of money it could make? This is what boggles my mind, is if Call of Duty, Battlefield, Madden, NHL, 2K focused on making better games, focused on creating passion projects, they would make so much more money. Yes, it would be a little bit more time consuming. Yes, it would cost more at the get go. But over time, the amount of money that would be flushing in, because we have a track record of that. We saw what happened when Madden had passionate developers. We saw what happened when Call of Duty had passionate developers. The games were amazingly successful. The reason why these franchises are the way they are today is because of passionate developers. Is because at some point in time, these developers took risks. They pushed for innovation. But now they've all gotten lazy. And they're getting lapped by other developers with much less power and financial stability. It blows my mind that I'm more excited for single player games than these massive multiplayer experiences that I'm so used to. The fact that I'm abandoning sports franchises that I've been purchasing for the last 14, 15 years because I cannot support laziness. I cannot support the bare minimum amount of effort that is going into these games anymore. I would definitely be migrating over to Starfield if it interested me in the slightest, but I understand why so many people want that game to succeed. Heck, I even look at what Cyberpunk 2077 did. I know that Project Red took a ton of flack when that game launched because it launched in an incomplete state. But wouldn't you know it, developers that were passionate about their project continued to work on it, continued to develop it, continued to grow it to the state that it is today. It's a very complete game. It's a game that's worth your money. Even though I haven't bought it yet, I haven't played it, look at the overwhelming amount of support it's receiving now. Do you think that amount of care or passion would ever go into a project designed by Activision or published by EA? No. They would just throw it into the bin and wait till next year when they release a brand new game. And that's the problem with this recurring every year there needs to be a new game cycle, is that there's no care put into the current game because any issues can just be fixed in the next iteration. And they're constantly just trying to fix what went wrong in the last game, that they never pushed for that true innovation. They never pushed the boundaries of what they were doing the year before. There's a reason why features are consistently left out of games like Call of Duty and Madden. It's because there's no time to put into it because they're too busy fixing bugs all the time. They're too busy trying to figure out what works to make more money instead of what works to make a better game. The focus and the attention is put onto the wrong thing with these franchises, and that is why we are failing. But the problem is that the fan bases are too damn loyal, and there's not enough competition. There's no competition when it comes to sports games whatsoever. You have one basketball game, one hockey game, one football game. That's it. There's no competition. When it comes to Call of Duty, there's one game. Battlefield ain't competing with it anymore. Halo certainly doesn't compete with it. Maybe X-Defiant can. Honestly, that's what I hope for. But even then, Call of Duty sits on its own. There's no need to innovate because there's no incentive to. Because they're the only game in town. No one's competing with them. And I know that some of you will say, well, Apex Legends and Fortnite compete with them. Do they really? I have no interest in playing Battle Royale games, so what am I to do? I love the arcade 6v6 shooters. Which is probably why I'm so excited for X-Defiant, which is why I have so much faith that Ubisoft is going to deliver us something that I've been waiting for such a long time, a true competitor to Call of Duty. Now, I understand that some of you will say, well, Ferocity, CSGO 2, Rainbow Six Siege, those are competitors to Call of Duty. And you're probably right, but I just don't think that Activision looks at Rainbow Six Siege or looks at CSGO 2 as competitors the same way that they'd look at Halo or Battlefield, just because there's more of a console presence within those franchises versus a CSGO 2, for instance. But the whole point I'm trying to make here is when you have passionate developers, when you have a development team that wants to work towards a singular goal of making their game as enjoyable as possible, what you can accomplish is far greater than when you have a development team whose sole goal and focus is to make as much money as possible. And the evidence is very clear cut. Look at what happens when you focus on passion. You get incredible projects like Starfield. You get incredible projects like the Last of Us series, like the last two God of Wars. Those are the projects that are born out of passion, that are born out of developers who want an unforgettable experience for their fan base. And then you have Call of Duty. Then you have EA Sports. Then you have NBA 2K. Development studios that are focused on nickel and diming their player base as much as possible, focused on the singular goal of making as much money as possible. Yes, these games and these franchises are financially successful. That's not the argument here. I would like them to shift their focus away from trying to be as financially successful as possible and instead try to create projects that are born out of passion, that are born out of creating the best experience for your players, and in turn, you will see financial success. The same way that games like Starfield, Cyberpunk, Spider-Man 2 will most certainly see financial success. You will still get the end goal, but you will have a much happier community, a much happier player base. You won't have people like Angry Joe going on hour-long rants about your games if you create experiences that are memorable, that are unforgettable. I think back to the last few Call of Duty games. They're pretty forgettable. I think back to the last few sports games I played. They're all forgettable. The experience isn't what it used to be. They're not listening to the community. They're not listening to the fans. Instead, what they're focused on is making as much money as possible and not focusing on what truly matters to players, which is the end experience. That's why people are pissed at these games. The overall experience sucks. It's lackluster. It's nowhere near what it used to be, what these franchises used to be able to deliver. And that's why I feel so much resentment towards franchises like Call of Duty and Madden, is because it used to be better. We know that they can accomplish it. We know that there's that possibility. And what's frustrating is all of this money they're making off of their player base isn't getting reinvested into their games. It's very clear because they're nowhere near the level of competency that they used to be. That's what's so frustrating. But I'm going to leave you with that. How do you feel about modern gaming? How do you feel about some of these franchises mentioned here in today's video? I'd love to hear your thoughts down below in that comment section. And as always, guys, thank you very much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please hit that like button. If you want to see more videos from me, please hit that subscribe button. I'll see you guys next time. Bye.